Tags and gift card wrappings are fun little holiday add-ons that, let's face it, quickly get thrown out right after they're opened. So I like to make them quick, cheap and cheerful, and even give them a second life if I can. Today, I'm using a couple of holiday die sets from Studio Light. One has various snowflakes in different sizes, along with shadow dies for some. And the other one is a really great mix of holiday favorites, including ornaments, stars, and sentiments. I'm also using a gift card holder tag die set and a Slimline die set, again in ways probably not intended by the designers. But don't worry, if you don't have these dies, I'm going to be suggesting alternatives along the way so you can use these ideas with what you already have to get a similar look. This video is part of a hop, and I've got all the details below and also on my blog. Let's jump in. First up, I'm going to quickly create some red cardstock by swinking my Samba ink onto a panel of white cardstock. Yes, it looks streaky right now, but as it dries, it smooths right out. And even if it isn't perfect, don't worry, because next I'm going to add some darker red ink through this stencil. I used the larger rectangle die in the tag set to trim my red panel, and now I'm using rouge ink to add some depth. This stencil is full of energy with this radiating star design, and I love it so much you're going to see it again in this video. This time I'm going for a tone-on-tone look by using the two red inks, and that will give me a subtle pattern for my tag. Next, I'm going to show you a couple of options for adding a die-cut sentiment. The sentiments in this set come with some pretty small letters, which can be fiddly to work with. But they also come with shadow dies, which gives you tons of options. And one option is to help make those tiny letters less fiddly by inlaying them. I've cut two sets of the shadow dies for Merry Christmas, and that gives me one for the base and one to inlay the letters into. I line up the word dies onto the shadow die cuts, and I tape them into place. I don't want them shifting at all when they go through my die cutting machine. And when they came out, I realized I could just use them like this, without the letters, and I think they look great. I've also cut one of the larger tag dies from this set from red cardstock, and I added a white reinforcer to the whole. So yes, the letters actually look great like this, and you can stop right here, but I'm going to show you another option, which is to add some tape all over the base, and then add the base to the back of the cutout frames. The holes where the letters will go are now sticky, and that's so much easier than trying to add glue to the backs of those tiny letters. I cut the letters from black cardstock for some high contrast, and I put them all in. But as I say, you could easily skip this work and just use the cutouts as your sentiment. Now, instead of just gluing that starburst rectangle flat to the tag and writing on the back, another option is to score along one edge to create a flap for this tag. This idea will work with any tag die and rectangle die you have in your stash, and it's a really fun way to create a spot for the message in an unexpected way. To finish this tag off, I added some red and white baker's twine, along with a few little snowflakes from that snowflake die set. Now, I told you I love that stencil, and here I am, swinking Fiesta Blue onto cardstock and cutting the rectangle once again. And here's the stencil again. So far, just the same. But this time I'm going for a higher contrast look, and I added Juniper Misting, which is a deep navy blue. This gives a really electrifying look for my night sky, which I'll come back to. But first I'm going to use that same tag die I used for the last one. This time I'm folding my cardstock and putting that long edge of the die just over the edge of the folded cardstock so that when I cut it, it'll open like a book. This is another way to get more out of a simple tag die, and it gives you an inside to write a message on. But if I put twine through the holes on both layers, it's not going to open easily, so I simply use my trimmer to cut off that top portion just on the front tag. Now, this fun design would work at any time of the year, but to make it more specific for the holidays, I used the two nativity star dies and two different types of gold metallic cardstock, one glitter and one satin, and I layered them up. Using the two different gold cardstocks really adds some texture and dimension to this, and again, this book tag idea will work with any tag die you have. Next, I'll quickly show you this gift card envelope die from the set and how it's supposed to work before I modify it to get more from it as well. When you cut it, it folds up and glues together with strong double-sided tape to create a little envelope. This die works great with double-sided paper because the inside of the envelope is the back of the cardstock, and you can see that there's quite a bit of it that's visible. You can also see that this envelope is actually a little long for a gift card. You really have to dig around in there to pull it out. But no worries, because that tag die that we've been using up until now is exactly right to fit inside and become the perfect mechanism for pulling out the gift card. I've cut mine from white and added a black reinforcer. To decorate the front of the envelope, I've cut one of the larger snowflakes from the Snowflakes set, and I'll just use liquid glue to adhere it right here in the center. Now, one thing I noticed when I was cutting this snowflake is that I almost like the center offcut more than the snowflake itself. It could be used as a smaller snowflake or even a retro kind of a flower, but here I'm just using 6 bright rainbow colors of Copic markers to color it, and I'm not too worried about the center because I'm going to be covering that. When it was colored, I added some glue to the envelope and I put the rainbow snowflake back in. Of course, you could leave this black and white for a very elegant look, but I think adding the rainbow gives it a bit of a whimsical, festive touch. To cover the center, I used one of my largest iridescent dewdrops. These big ones are really two-dimensional for a card that's going in the mail, but they're perfect for adding some shine and glam to a tag like this. So let's say you have a gift card wrapper die similar to this, but you just want to make a single tag with the same shape. Just place that folding edge off the edge of your cardstock and run it through. Voila! Now you've got a flat tag that you can decorate any way you like. I decided to use these hanging star dies from the set, and in fact I used them together to get the look of a continuous line across my tag. I cut 3 lines of stars on the tag, trying to get that big star in different heights on the tag for added interest. I cut another tag from white to act as my base. I want to inlay the stars, but not those tiny dots, so this time I did not put glue all over the base, but rather on the solid areas of the back of the black tag before gluing them together. I took a look at this and I really didn't love how those 3 stars at the bottom were all lined up, so I simply cut them off. This is another great way to get more from a basic tag die like this. You can adjust it to any length you want. Then I cut scraps of holographic cardstock with the star portions of the dies and I inlaid them into the black tag. Next, I created yet another white layer, and this one will be the back of the tag where the message can be written. I added a strip of the same holographic cardstock to the bottom so that it can peek out. And honestly, at this point, I was just winging it, and once I had it together, I decided it was too much, and I trimmed that tag, so now there's just about 1/4 of an inch showing when the 2 tags are lined up together. Now you can glue the tops of these 2 tags together, but I think it's kind of fun to just have them hanging on the twine. Next up is a gift card wrapper idea that you can do with any slimline die that you have. I have this set and I'm using the largest one with the stitching and decorative edges. There are 2 that are slightly smaller, which are great if you want to layer this up, but that's not what I need today. I've cut it from white cardstock and now I'm taking that same snowflake die and cutting 4 at a time from full back sticky notes to create some masks for ink blending. Next, I made a mistake and I forgot to turn on my camera while I blended yellow, then red, then blue ink over top of it all. And then came the work of getting the masks back off. I found that removal was really quite tricky while the masks and cardstock were still wet, but after taking a lunch break, the masks came off easily and cleanly, so I learned something there. Anyway, you can skip all of this and use pattern paper or even plain cardstock if you want it to be even faster. To create the envelope, it's really as simple as scoring 2 lines just around the gift card, scoring it about 2 5/8 inches from each end. You're basically scoring it approximately into thirds, and then you fold it up. Now this die has this little tip that's a little awkward, so I used my trimmer and I got rid of it. Then I added some strong double-sided tape to the 2 edges and my little envelope is done. This slimline die is slightly wider than many others, so if your die is only 3.5 inches wide, you may have to leave the sides open. Just add some temporary adhesive to the back of your gift card so it doesn't slide out. To finish it off, I added a stacked up snowflake right over top of one of the white masked snowflakes. Finally, I'm going to make some tags out of the larger snowflake dies that really aren't designed to be tags. And then I'm going to give them a second life with a tiny piece of tape. These bigger snowflakes have shadow dies, and 2 of the shadow die cuts are going to form my tag. I'm going to blend the same 3 colors of ink on both of these shadow dies. I love how rich these colors are and how they blend to give a whole rainbow. They'll be the perfect background for my white snowflakes. I'm using 2 of these to create my tag, so I'll have 2 good sides, and you'll see why in a minute. I take the back one and I put a score line along one edge. Then I add adhesive just to that area and I press the 2 die cuts together to create a tag that opens. You could also do the trick I did with the book tag earlier and cut through a folded piece of cardstock at once before you do the ink blending. And if you have a snowflake die that doesn't have a shadow die like this one, just use a circle or square to create the tag. Now, since this isn't an actual tag die, I needed to punch a hole in it, and I added some twine, and finally, here's my little trick. It's so easy. I just add just a little piece of two-sided tape with the release paper left on. Once this tag has completed its mission of identifying the gift's recipient, they can remove the release paper, stick the two tags together, and they have a nice little ornament that can be hung on a tree or in a window. I went ahead and made a bunch of these tags with different combinations of cardstocks and colors. Pink foil cardstock, my rainbow blend, white on holographic, which will really capture the lights and be gorgeous, and finally some craft cardstock, which I think almost looks like a decorated gingerbread cookie with the white snowflake, and it has a fun rustic look. I hope you enjoyed this video and found the ideas useful for your tag making. Don't forget to check out the hop details below and use the link to hop to the next person. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.